Good evening, I'm Kimilia and this is KiniNews. Dr. Mahathir Mohamad commented on the rule of law and investigations by authorities today. In a sarcasm-laden post, he said all tuns should be investigated if they cannot explain where or how they got their money.
Former Premier Dr. Mahathir Mohamad has sarcastically called on the authorities to remand all tun title holders, of which he is one, if they don't disclose the source of their wealth. In a statement posted on Facebook, he said he agreed completely that tuns should be investigated, and if they cannot explain where or how they got the money, their property should be seized. Mahathir said it is not necessary to obtain documentary evidence of their misdeeds, and suspicions alone should be enough. He said tuns should not only be investigated, they should also be remanded until they reveal the source of their money. Mahathir added that if they don't, it must be because they are hiding. This comes after the MACC launched investigations into former Finance Minister Daim Zainuddin, another tun and close associate of Mahathir, over alleged money laundering and corruption. In his posting today, Mahathir snidely said that corruption must be eradicated at all cost. If the Attorney General is of the opinion that the accusations are due to politics, it is the right of the AG not to continue prosecution. He said passports should be returned and the courts must not question the decision of the AG. Last week, the MACC had seized Ilham Tower, a high commercial value building owned by Daim and his family. This reportedly came after the former minister refused to comply with requests from the MACC to disclose the financial holdings of both himself and his family. The seizure is linked to an anti-money laundering investigation that began in late May into a corporate transaction worth 2.3 billion ringgit in November 1997. The transaction involved publicly listed Renong Berhad and United Engineers Malaysia Berhad UEM. The anti-graft agency is also reportedly looking into Daim's businesses and how the corporate figure obtained all his assets.
Protesters of a 6-day blockade in solidarity with Palestine pitched tents about 200 meters away from the US Embassy last night. This is despite police advising against it. Former Batu MP Tian Chua, who is a senior member of the organizers' Secretariat Solidarity Palestine, said the demonstrators will continue to gather as close as possible to the embassy. He told reporters last night that the government has a sympathetic stand in solidarity with the Palestinian struggle, and they hope the police will also be consistent with the policy and allow them to continue the picket. Despite a warning notice by Kuala Lumpur City Hall for alleged obstruction of a public area this morning, tents were still up nearby as of 5 p.m. Last night, SSP launched a protest that started with a march from the nearby Tabung Haji Mosque, and organizers announced it will be holding a symbolic blockade for 6 days until the new year. The picket is in response to the US vetoing efforts by the United Nations to push for a ceasefire in Gaza amid continued assault by Israel. Zahid will be opposing an application by the Malaysian bar to seek a judicial review of his DNAA last September. This is in relation to his case of allegedly misappropriating Yayasan Akal Budi funds.
Ahmad Zahid Hamidi will challenge the Malaysian bar's application seeking a judicial review of the Attorney General's decision to grant the Deputy Prime Minister a discharge not amounting to an acquittal on September 4th. Zahid's lawyer, Guok Nek Seong, is expected to file an affidavit and argument to contest the application before January 11, 2024. He told Bernama that they will know if the Attorney General will also object to the judicial review application during proceedings of the application. On September 4th, the High Court in Kuala Lumpur granted Zahid a DNAA for 47 charges related to criminal breach of trust, corruption and money laundering involving Yayasan Akal Budi funds. This was after the prosecution informed the court that the Attorney General's chambers wanted to halt the proceedings against Zahid to scrutinize new evidence. The Malaysian Bar Association had filed an application on December 2nd, seeking an order to annul the Attorney General's decision, claiming it exceeded the jurisdiction and authority granted to the Attorney General. It contends that the AG acted beyond his jurisdiction and that the decision was unreasonable and irrational. It also seeks an order compelling the Attorney General to provide information and documentation justifying the decision to apply for a DNAA against Zahid. The bar also wants Zahid to be prosecuted again if deemed appropriate, as per Section 254A of the Criminal Procedure Code.
An Amanah vice president defended Muhammad Sabu's appointment as the party's president in their polls last weekend after questions were raised over the decision.
Amanah's vice president has defended the appointment of Muhammad Sabu as president of the party, even though he did not garner the highest number of votes. Dr. Siti Mariah Mahmud denied that the position was to appease him and instead pointed to his credibility as a minister. She told Utusan Malaysia that they have seen how Muhammad, as the founder of the party, has succeeded as a minister. She was also asked why Health Minister Zulkifli Ahmad was not elevated to the party's top position after garnering the highest number of votes. Dr. Siti responded that Zulkifli was an intellectual and suggested he may only be understood by the T20 group. She said the two complemented each other, and although not all may agree with it, this was the decision made. In last Sunday's Amanah Central Committee polls, Zulkifli bagged the most votes with 900, edging former Federal Territories Minister Khalid Abdul Samad, who obtained 899 votes. Muhammad, who is better known as Muhammad Sabu, came in 8th with 613 votes. Siti Mariah also pointed out that former Minister Mujahid Yusof Rawa, who was appointed Deputy President, has 3 years to build up the party's strength before taking over the leadership. She admitted that since being part of the government, Amanah has been busy with administering the country rather than strengthening the party. However, she is confident that this problem can be resolved in 3 to 4 years' time.
Warisan has denied allegations of being linked to the biggest drug trafficking syndicate in Sabah. The party's Secretary General said it views the matter seriously and won't hesitate to take legal action.
Warisan has denied allegations that it received funds or has any ties to the biggest drug trafficking syndicate in Sabah. Its Secretary General Loreto Padua labelled such allegations as extreme political slander to damage the reputation of the party and its leaders. Bernama quoted Loreto as saying that his party regrets that there is still a small group of irresponsible parties trying to link a recent case with the party through WhatsApp. He warned that the party would not hesitate to take legal action against those who link Warisan to any illegal activities or syndicates. Yesterday, Deputy Inspector General of Police Ayub Khan Maidin Pichai revealed that PDRM nabbed a drug syndicate leader with the title Dato on suspicion of being involved in the biggest drug trafficking syndicate in the state. Following the announcement, a message went viral on WhatsApp claiming that an individual with the title Dato in the syndicate had ties with Warisan leaders and was even involved in giving funds to the party. Commenting on this, Loreto said Warisan welcomed the police success in their latest operation and called for those suspected of being involved to be investigated and charged.
Lawyers for Liberty are demanding the release of 171 migrant workers who were taken into custody when they attempted to lodge a police report against their agent.
Lawyers for Liberty has urged the government to immediately release the 171 migrant workers from Bangladesh who were detained after they marched to the police station to try and lodge a report against their agents who failed to provide them jobs as contractually agreed. The group have been held under immigration custody since December 20th. LFL Director Zahid Malik said it was appalling that the migrants were arrested en masse to be investigated for allegedly overstaying, when the police had acknowledged that they entered the country legally and were merely trying to file a police report against their agent. In a statement, Zahid said it is obvious from the available facts that the migrants have been duped and are now stranded in our country without the jobs they were promised. Zahid stressed that the migrants in question are victims of trafficking as per Section 2 of the Anti-Trafficking in Persons and Anti-Smuggling of Migrants Act 2007 (ATIPSOM) and thus cannot be detained in immigration depots or charged for offences. He then asserted that the continued detention and investigation of the migrants for an offence under Section 15(1) subsection C of the Immigration Act have made a mockery of the country's justice system. Elaborating further, he said exploitative agents remain free whilst victims are detained and treated like criminals without due process. He also called for the Council for Anti-Trafficking in Persons and Anti-Smuggling of Migrants, or MAPO, to ensure that these migrants who are victims of trafficking are accorded the full protection provided by Atip Som. Yesterday, the Human Resources Minister said an investigation will be conducted on the agent responsible.
The Prime Minister's move to transfer Mitra out of his department to the National Unity Ministry continues to be criticized. Klang MP V. Ganapathy Rao spoke out against it today and offered a solution.
Klang MP V. Ganapathy Rao has proposed turning the Malaysian Indian Transformation Unit into a federal statutory body governed by a board as a solution to the recent controversy. The DAP leader said in a statement that this would boost the unit's credibility and transparency of funds allocated to it, since an annual report on the matter must be presented to the Cabinet, then Parliament. He was responding to Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim's recent announcement that Mitra will be moved from the Prime Minister's department and returned to the National Unity Ministry. The announcement has caught flack from Indian politicians and community leaders alike. Ganapathy Rao explained that Mitra, as well as its previous iteration, Socio-Economic Development of the Indian Community Unit, or SEDIC, has been plagued with problems over the last few years. This includes leakages, inefficiencies in program management, as well as a lack of transparency. He pointed out for this reason, Mitra was placed under PMO to ensure its transparency and effective running. The Klang MP also warned that continuously putting Mitra under the National Unity Ministry would attract further backlash from the Indian community, whose support could be the decisive factor for the unity government's success.
And that is all from me today. For more stories, you can go to Kinitv.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook for the latest news updates. If you'd like to support independent media, do consider subscribing to MalaysiaKini.com. I'm Kimilia. Thanks for watching.